Welcome back, everyone. As you probably guessed in the title of the video as well as the thumbnail, this right here is the rifle that we are going over today. This is the Romanian AES-10B2. So that is a new designation, I believe new as of late 2023. These started coming in the country in early 2024, and they are here and they are available as of right now. Well, what the heck is it? Kind of looks like a big AK. That's because it kind of is a big AK. So this is the Romanian variant of the RPK. Russia, of course, made the RPK starting out in the early 60s. And by about 1963, 1964, 1965, essentially every COM-bloc country had adopted a version of the RPK in some form. And why did they do that? Well, if we have to look back at the 50s and sort of how the Soviet army was organized, if you will, they had at the squad level a weapon called a RPD, which was a belt-fed 7.62 by 39 machine gun. It's actually a super cool gun. It's really controllable. There's a lot of pros to that gun. However, some of the cons to it, if you're looking at a conscript army, is that a lot of the parts weren't interchangeable with the AK and then the AKM, which had become standard by that time. Additionally, the magazines, the feeding devices, etc., were not common. And a belt-fed 7.62 by 39 just has some inherent problems due to the shape of the cartridge. And it's just a much more complex system, the RPD, and the RPK was the solution to that. So essentially, basically from the 60s all the way until the 80s, both weapons were used. However, all the way through the fall of the Soviet Union, this was being pushed more towards the front, if you will, of combat units, and then the RPD was being pushed towards the rear of like guard police type of units. And reasons for that is because, of course, it gives you a good amount of fire, but also has the benefit of being very easy to train someone on. If you train them on the AK, essentially they are trained on this weapon as well. There are some differences that definitely we will get into here as we walk through the rifle, because it's not all the same, it's just similar. So before we go tip to butt on it in terms of all the different details of what makes this rifle cool, we're going to head out to the range, throw an optic on this gun, and print some groups, because one thing people tend to think is that because you have a longer barrel, it will somehow be more accurate. I'm not entirely sure that that is true, but one way to find out, rather. So let's head to the range and see what kind of groups this rifle puts down, and then when we come back, we're going to walk through it tip to butt. Now we're going to see what kind of groups we can get out of this rifle here. In the gun right now, we have some Bellum brass case ammunition, and then we have some Winchester 123 grain brass case ammunition as well. Just so happens that's what I have a bunch of right now from our friends over at Firearms Depot. So big thank you to them for sponsoring basically all the ammo besides 9mm here on the channel. We definitely appreciate that. So target is downrange at 100 yards. My excuse for anything that goes wrong here is that we just have a 3x magnified optic on there. As I've said in many videos, I think for precision testing, 6x is kind of the minimum that you should need or want. But I couldn't find my 1:6 with the AK mount before coming out here. So we're going with the 3x, and we'll just make excuses as we go along. Other than that, we got a CTK precision rest, and that's pretty much it. Let's get to it. Now again, it's just important to point out here as I load this up, this is not precision match ammo. I don't have any match 7.62 by 39. It's not hunting stuff, anything like that. It's just brass, Winchester 123 grain full metal jacket. So I would imagine the groups would tighten up with match ammo, but you go with what you got, right? And I would imagine most folks, in all seriousness, are not firing match ammo in this gun anyway. All right, let's go check it out. So I just had to go rewatch the footage on my camera. It's not a big screen, but I think I saw this round here come from that first group. I have no idea what was going on there. I didn't change my hold, I didn't do anything. It was just a massive flyer. So no idea what happened there. And then we had a nice group here with that Winchester. It's actually a phenomenal group for an AK, especially a COM-bloc AK. So this one here, if it's just those four, is just under 3 inches, so like 2 7/8 inches. And then the Winchester group, once again, phenomenal. Inch and a quarter, center to center. Now, of course, if we count this one, which I don't know what the heck happened there, I don't know if this is a bad round or something, I have no idea. We count that as a 13-inch group. But as you can see, it's capable of very good accuracy with the right ammo. Again, I have no idea what happened there. I had to jump in the video here. I was just editing the video that you guys just watched. That was actually filmed months ago, and it's the first time I saw that both of those first rounds went really high. I couldn't tell that on the small camera. I have no idea what's behind that. I would guess it is a barrel seasoning issue. If you guys look around at some of the long-range shooters, you'll see that talked about a lot, but I saw absolutely none of that when using a steel case ammunition. It was just when going between two different brass case loads. Very interesting. So as long as I had the same brass case load, it was fine, but just switching between the two, it did seem to have a flyer, and I didn't have it with steel case. Just wanted to throw that in because it is kind of a weird thing that I haven't seen before. So there it is. So with those groups out of the way, let's walk through it front to back. So first up, we do have a threaded barrel out there. It is threaded 14 millimeter, and the actual slant muzzle device on there is an American-made part for 922R compliance. One thing that's different about the AES-10B2 versus a lot of the other Romanian RPKs that have come in is that this is as Romanian as legally possible with 922R restrictions here in America. So all of the key components, barrel, receiver, trunnion, all of those sorts of things, a lot of the furniture is actually made in Romania. So again, some of the earlier AES 10s that have come in, not so much. This one, very, very clone correct, which certainly is nice. And again, that slant brake would be clone correct for it. However, it is an American-made part. Another thing that's really cool about the bipods here on the RPKs, the Romanian ones specifically, is that they have some functionality that a lot of the Russian ones and other countries simply didn't have. So we have this folding capability here. And of course, typically it would come with a cleaning rod. However, the one here in America does not. Just to piss off the AK guys, it does not come with a cleaning rod, but you can put one in there, and you can actually attach your bipod at various stages along the cleaning rod. It'll hook in there. However, it's actually designed to be on this little nub right here at the end of the handguard retainer. And as you guys can see there, it's very strong, and that is how it's designed to actually clip in here. And to extend it, it's pretty simple. So essentially you just unclip it with that piece there, it comes out, and you fold it down, and it comes out into this position here. An interesting thing that's different about the Romanians versus most of the other ones out there is that these two pieces here on both sides, you can actually unscrew these and take your bipod off. So that way, if you want to lighten the load and have it a little bit lighter out front, say you're doing like urban operations or something like that, you don't really expect to be in the prone as much, that's definitely something you can do. And like the Russian ones, you simply couldn't do that without taking off the front sight assembly. So definitely a cooler feature there. Additionally, the Romanian ones are adjustable via these wing nuts here. So basically just loosen the wing nuts and bring it down or up. One reason for that, if you guys look at it here as we kind of lay it down, we have the standard capacity 30 round mag in there. You guys can't see that. We have the standard capacity 30 round mag in there for YouTube. However, RPKs were not designed to be fired with 30 round mags. Of course, they absolutely work just fine because you guys have seen it throughout the video. They were designed to function with 75 round drum magazines and or 40 round magazines. So one of the reasons you could actually extend this bipod is because from the prone with the 40 round, you actually need it to be a little bit higher up. So kind of a cool thing there. And it's odd that other countries didn't do that, but Romania did. So good on them for that. Continuing on there, the front sight block, this gun is zeroed, as you guys can see there. So one of the things that's been a frequent criticism of Romanian imports over the years is canted sights. And that's not like a cheap thing that Century's doing or something like that when they import them. That's actually how a lot of com block AKs are made. Like if you guys have served overseas, you'll know that there's a lot of AKs out there floating around in the world that can't be zeroed because of the way the actual sights are installed. But this one here, as you guys can see, is almost perfectly centered up. And the windage on this one here, of course, being an RPK, is adjustable. So your rear sight is windage adjustable as well as your front sight, which is a little different than most AKs. We should be rolling in the photos here that you guys can see. I didn't have to move it very much at all. So these sights are pretty darn well aligned, which I certainly dig. Barrel itself, like I said, is Romanian. It is cold hammer forged, chrome lined, and it is a thick barrel, as you guys can see there. Again, designed for sustained fire. One of the things you give up with this gun as sort of like a com block saw versus other light machine gun designs out there in terms of, like, obviously this isn't a machine gun, YouTube sensors, but the one that would be used in the Soviet Army, of course, would be one of the things you give up with this type of gun is that the barrel itself is not removable and or replaceable. So in order to account for that and make it, you know, more durable and not have to droop under sustained fire, those sorts of things, they make it thicker. So you guys saw the accuracy with those groups. That's about what I would expect with that particular optic. And just because something's, you know, heavier and longer doesn't mean it is more accurate. Speaking of length, this one here comes in at 23 inches and 1/4 inch. So it is fairly long, certainly much longer than your traditional AK, which is 16 to 16 and a half, depending on the actual country that it comes from. Continuing on back on the barrel, we have this little collar here that doesn't serve any purpose outside of retaining the cleaning rod that we do not have on this gun. Continuing on back there, you'll note that we do not have a bayonet lug. That is actually not an import thing. These guns were not made with bayonet lugs. They were not designed for that as the sort of squad automatic weapon. They didn't expect to have to use those, which certainly makes a lot of sense in my opinion. Continuing on back, we have our gas block. Gas block there is chrome lined, which certainly is nice. Again, when these weapons were adopted, this particular one in Romania would have been adopted in 1964 and was designated the PM64 at the time. I have no idea how to say that in Romanian. But PM64, they were still using corrosive ammunition. So that chrome line gas block definitely made a difference. And then continuing on back here, again, we have our retainer for the lower handguard, which also has the sling attachment point on there. As you guys can see there, that is traditional. We've reviewed some AKs over the last year that don't have that, which is a little bit weird to me. And let me move this optic out of the way so I don't knock it over. But the handguards there, again, just big AK handguards. They're a little bit thicker, as you guys should see here from the photos, and even the gas tube is a little bit beefed up on there. We have this carry handle, which is interesting. So once again, a lot of people online will say that the Romanian RPKs are the most clone correct to the Russian ones, and I would say that's actually true. Of all the variants, they basically initially anyway, in the 1960s, just copied the Soviet RPK, which was smart in my opinion, and they did the finish and stuff like that a little bit different. But one thing they did is even after the Russians had discontinued making RPKs, like the Russians stopped making them in the 80s. The Romanians didn't. Obviously, they're still making them. This is a 2023 production, so they're still making them, and they make these little improvements along the way, and one of them is this carry handle. So Soviet RPKs never had that. However, you'll see there, the rifle does balance out very well and makes it very easy to carry in that configuration. This is actually taken from the 5.45 by 39 RPK variant that Russia made, which was their more modern one that they switched over to. The Romanians saw that, thought it was a good idea, and they put it on their 7.62 by 39 version, which I definitely dig. Like we already mentioned there, the actual elevation on the rear sight is adjustable all the way out to 1,000 meters, and it is windage adjustable. That is definitely something that is very different on the RPKs, and I'm not sure why they didn't use that on the AK outside of cost. That probably is why, now that I'm saying it, but it definitely is a better rear sight for sure. It's just a little bit finer in just about every way. Continuing on back to the receiver. The receiver on a traditional AKM, a modernized AK, is going to be 1 millimeter thick. The RPKs, including this one here, have the 1.5 millimeter thick receiver. Additionally, one thing that people criticize the Warsaw AKs for, which is the Romanian standard AK, is not having the dimples on the receiver. Some people don't think it looks good. There's an argument in terms of strength versus weakening on that. That's a video for another day. But one thing that is clone correct on this RPK is the fact that there are no dimples there right by the mag well. So they found out, the Russians did, as they continued to test these rifles, that it was actually stronger to put a piece of steel on the inside of that stamped receiver, on the inside where the mag goes in, rather than dimple it. So mid-70s-ish is when the Romanians started to do that. So this absolutely is clone correct in that regard. Additionally, one thing that people are going to argue about is going to be this rib cover, or the ribbed top cover, I should say, that we do have on here. Again, that would be clone correct. Around the mid-70s, the Romanians switched over to this rib top cover from the smooth one. So again, both would be clone correct. However, there's people online that are arguing about this thing, saying it's not clone correct. That's absolutely not true. You can, I guess, find one of Ian McCollum's books and look it up. It is clone correct in that regard. Additionally, we have our safety lever here, traditional AK style safety. All the way down is fire, up is safe. We have our bulged front trunnion in there. That's one of the things they did to reinforce the receiver where the barrel mates to it. Again, for heavy sustained fire, having those bulged front trunnions in there definitely beefs up the longevity of the rifle for sure. And these rifles are known for being insanely durable. Obviously, the AK has that reputation. Then you upscale that to a big AK like we have here, and it really is an insanely durable gun. This one absolutely meets that standard. Continuing on over to the left side of the receiver, we have our optics mounting rail on there. This particular one is standard AKM pattern, so any of your AK mounts on there will work. Of course, we were using the RS Regulate on there that we have used for years here on the channel. No issues at all fitting it on there. And some of the RPKs that have come in both from Romania and other countries via kit builds and things like that have come in with and without the optics rail. It really depends when the country produced it, if it is actually clone correct. Obviously, a lot of the ones in the 60s and early 70s didn't have them. A lot of the ones in the late 70s and 80s did have them. Again, this is a 2023 production, as you guys can see by the serial number, and it absolutely should have it. It is clone correct in that regard, so definitely do dig that. One other thing to point out while we're rolling in photos here is going to be the actual rivets on the gun. That's something that a lot of people get worked up for, rightfully so, when it comes to AKs. If your AK rivets aren't good, your gun isn't good. It simply will not last over time. And these ones rather are excellent. There's a little bit of a over dimpling on a couple of them, but that's better than under dimpling, if you will, in terms of setting in your rivet. The actual magazine release is standard AK, nothing fancy on this. It's not enlarged or anything like that. The trigger on this is one of the 922R components on this gun. That is the rack trigger from Century. It's actually very good. It breaks right around 3 pounds. It has like a rolling break to it. And for an AK trigger, it's one of the better ones out there on the market, in my opinion. The grip, also marked with that C, is going to be another one of those 922R components here on this rifle to make it compliant with silly US import laws. And then back here on the stock, it's your club style stock or club foot style stock. You'll hear it referred to as both. And it's Warsaw length, so those of you guys who are a little bit shorter will like it. It's going to be a little bit more comfortable to you. If you are like 6'5", 6'6", you're going to feel like it is really short, almost like an AR-15 pushed all the way in on the stock, if that makes sense. And these stocks, unlike a lot of the other AES-10s that have come in over the years, are actually clone correct. So they actually have the trap door there in the rear, as they should for your cleaning kit. And one thing that's a little bit weird on them is that it has a Phillips head screw there on it. The actual Romanian ones, as they were made, would have a flathead screw, but that is a nitpicky thing, just something that the AK clone dorks will pick up on. Speaking of things the AK clone dorks will pick up on, we're going to show you guys the internal components here. I'm not going to disassemble it because I'm not sure if that's still out anymore on YouTube. However, what you guys will see here on the bolt itself is that the wear is very good. This rifle right now has just under 1,000 rounds through it. Again, we've had it in for a few months right now, and the wear pattern is actually surprisingly good. Typically, I would expect to see more wear, just as a for what it's worth. Whenever I get a rifle in, or pistol for that matter, first thing I do is lubricate it. I don't believe you should run guns dry from the factory. That's just not how they're designed. So I lubricated the gun with some CLP, and I haven't lubricated it since. I wiped this thing down to get the pictures that you guys are actually seeing right now, so it's relatively clean, and the wear pattern is fantastic on the bolt. Cannot be mad about it. One thing to also point out about the AES-10B2 is that all of the components are going to be serial number matched. Again, that's something that wasn't always the case with some of the earlier Romanian RPKs that came into the country. This one, everything is correct. The bolt has the serial number on it. The actual top cover has a serial number. Obviously the receiver, the trunnion, as well as the carrier, all serial number matching. Looking inside the receiver, looking at the rails as well as where the bolt locks up on the trunnion, the wear marks, honestly, again, they look really good for a gun that has just under 1,000 rounds. If I was to just look at this rifle and you didn't tell me how many rounds were on it, I would guess probably 300 to 500. So that is a testament to the fit and finish and the surface hardness, of course, of the current production Romanian guns. They're doing very well. One thing that everybody always wants to talk about when it comes to AKs, particularly if they're using a US-made trigger like we have here, is going to be the wear mark or the mushrooming on the tail of the actual bolt carrier. This one doesn't look bad at all, can't complain. At this point in the video, we have shown you guys the cool things, the unique things about the RPK, the Romanian RPK. We've shown you guys the groups, talked about the round count. We also need to talk about a few other things before we close the video out. Just full disclosure, Century did send this out for the review here on the channel. They do not get to see this video before anyone else. They don't have any influence on what I say, but just again, full disclosure, they sent it out for this review, so make of that what you will. Additionally, let's talk reliability. So this gun had an issue with one type of magazine. Unfortunately, it was the actual magazine that it came with. It came with a US Palm non-steel reinforced magazine, and it just would not feed from that magazine. I tried it a few different times with two different types of ammo, and it didn't like it. Ironically, that magazine feeds 100% fine in both of my Wassers, so I don't know what it was, just a tolerance stacking issue, something like that, but that particular magazine wouldn't work. Malfunction. Failure to feed brass case ammo. Malfunction. Failure to feed brass case ammo. So at this point, I'm pretty sure it was just a magazine issue and not a gun issue because, again, it ran everything else flawlessly. So in terms of reliability, it's exactly what you'd expect from an AK system. Ran everything that we would put through it, unless it was in that one mag, and that included a lot of brass case ammunition. That is something that is becoming more and more new to the market, if you will, because a lot of the Russian stuff, the steel case stuff, is drying up. Now we have some American-made steel case stuff, which certainly is nice. However, we ran primarily brass case ammunition through this gun, which that is kind of a new thing here on the channel. Again, thanks to our friends at Firearms Depot for sending the ammo for that. Reliability, very good. Price point on this guy, it's a pro and a con, right? So the price point, it's expensive. However, compared to other com block RPKs, it's actually about the lowest and really close to the actual lowest one that's on the US market right now. Again, these stopped coming in, the AES-10Bs stopped coming in, I believe, in 2017, 2018. And of course, they had a hot war in Europe since then, so they weren't coming in for a long time. And the fact that they are coming in now is awesome and just a testament to the relationship that Century has with the Cugir factory over in Romania. So I say all that to say, the price is not cheap. So the MSRP on it is right around 1,999 units of measure, since we can't say cost on YouTube anymore. However, street price is going to be cheaper than that. It's going to be roughly 75% of that. And if you look around at the competitive options out there, the biggest one that would come to mind in terms of an actual competitor with this is going to be the Zastava Z72, I believe, is their designation for that one. And that one is going to be similarly priced, sometimes a little bit more. And if you look at the parts kits that are coming in that folks are actually putting together, all of those are well over 2,000. So I say that to say it's probably not a gun you're going to pick up just because you want a beater AK like it was 1990. That's just not the case anymore. AKs are much more expensive than they used to be, and in fact, they're in general more expensive than comparably spec'd out AR-15s. Generally, that is a discussion for another day. However, AKs aren't cheap anymore, and RPKs that come in limited batches certainly are not cheap as well. So whether or not that's worth it is ultimately up to you guys, and I leave that to you guys to make the decision. I just shoot the guns and tell you guys what happens and show you guys what happens, and beyond that, it is on y'all. So with that, we're going to close the video out. If you guys aren't seeing 2 to 4 videos a week here on the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you've done both of those and you're still not seeing them, you can sign up for my email list to get around the algorithm. This email will put you on 2 different email lists. One of them is going to be a monthly email that goes out monthly, as the name indicates, and it just goes out once a month. Has all the videos since the previous month's email, so that way there's no big tech giant censoring your eyes from my content. Additionally, it will get you put on the daily deals email. That goes out every day, as the name indicates. So if this rifle, magazines, ammunition, optics, whatever, lights, lasers, if whatever that item is, if it's in the email on that day, it's the cheapest I know of anywhere on the internet. So that way it saves you guys some money, because I've already done the price comparisons for you and hopefully saves you some time as well. There's also a good meme in there that a lot of folks do like. So if you just want to sign up for Pro 2A memes, you are allowed to do that. I will allow it. Additionally, we also have a SMS text list now that you guys can sign up for at the website here on your screen. This goes out once a day at most, and it's not even every day. And it either has a really good deal or a new video that I just dropped in there. Once again, getting around the algorithm and the censorship, allowing me to go straight into your text inbox and let you guys know what is going on in real time. Additionally, roughly once a month, we will do a live Q&A video that is just for people on the SMS text list. The only way to get the link to the video is to be on that list, so sign up for it at the website here on your screen. And with that, that's all I have for you. Thank you all for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I look forward to everybody in the next video.